All right. Good afternoon, guys, here on the East Coast. Also, good afternoon, I guess early afternoon for those on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Thanks so much for staying with us, guys. We were having a little bit of technical difficulties in the beginning, but we are here now. Show must go on, so to speak. But as you guys will know, if you guys have been keeping track of the promo that we recently put up, we do have a terrific guest joining us today. So give me one moment while I introduce them. So the guests that I have here, they are a three-time Adolco nominee. They've also won one of these awards. It's basically a organization for this type of award that highlights Black artists. So they also have not only provided their talents to the stage, but also to the small screen. So without further ado, I want to give introduction to actress, producer, philanthropist, so many talents and things in which she has provides her talents to. Miss Messeret Stroman Wheeler. What's going on, man?
Oh, hi, Brandon. I'm so happy to be here. So glad we worked out the technical difficulties. And thank you,
Yeah,
everybody,
right.
for hanging in there with us. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, as I said, Mez, thank you so much for being on today's show. It's cool to have you on here. I know it's we don't have a chance to really see each other as often as we would like, but it is what it is. How are you? How have things been? I know so much stuff has been happening out in the world with everything that's been going on. So, talk to me. How you been?
I have been fine. I cannot complain. I stay in my house and only go out when necessary. And I'm wearing two masks because, hey, there's been an uptick again. And I don't know if one mask may do it, but I just feel like I had a nurse say to me, you could double the mask. So I said, oh, I think I will do that. So I'm wearing two masks now. But thank you so much for having me on here too. And it's great to see you.
You as well, you as well. So, if you guys have been keeping track of the title that we have above, the purpose of tonight's show is to talk about a project known as the American Slavery Project. So, I wanted to get into, the the nuts and bolts, so to speak, of this project. We'll be talking about many other things as well, but first and foremost, can you tell folks out there what how this project came about?
Yes. So the American Slavery Project. Oh, I'm getting a little echo. Okay. The American Slavery Project is a theatrical response to revisionism in this nation's conversation around enslavement and its aftermath. We center African American playwrights who write about the era. We engage the community, and we have an active education program. We were started, I can't go any further without saying that our founder, Judy Tate, she is founder. She is also producing artistic director. She is four-time Emmy Award winning writer and also my partner, in crime for the Business for American Slavery Project. And she started this actually in 2012. And the impetus for it was in 2011. It was the sesquicentennial or 150th year celebrating the Civil War, but there was a lot of celebrations going on, but no mention of slavery. There were several main stage productions here in New York going on, but the theme was slavery, but none of the writers were of African American descent. In her frustration, she was speaking with a couple of friends of hers, Keith Joseph Atkins, who's also a wonderful playwright and writer. He's written for Girlfriends and also The Good Wife, and he's the founder of the New Black Fest. And she spoke with her friend Godfrey L. Simmons Jr., wonderful actor and the founder of Civic Ensemble Theater in Ithaca, but now he's at Heartbeat Ensemble. And in speaking with them, she let her frustration be known. And I think it was Keith who said to her, well, what are we going to do about it? And from there, they decided to form the American Slavery Project. The foundation piece that we have started with was Unheard Voices, which is a monologue piece with live drumming, West African drumming, and live West African singing. And it's monologues that are based on the lives of people who were buried in the African burial ground. Now, I kind of have to go back a little bit. The African burial ground is here in Manhattan, in New York, and people here know about it. I'm not sure if people all over the country or the world know about it. But in 91, they were digging in Lower Manhattan to put up a new federal building. In doing so, they happened upon some skeletal remains. And so, you know, that's par for the course. New York dug some more skeletal remains. And so they kept, and so they finally decided, we've got to halt this and figure out what we're digging into. They contacted Howard University, who also worked with researchers and scholars, and found that these skeletal remains were from what was the African burial ground in Lower Manhattan, that it had enslaved Black people and free Blacks from 1630 to 1790 were buried there. So what they did was they erected the African Burial Ground Museum. And so that's there now, and you're able to go and see it, and you can visit their website, and there's the history and everything for people to see. So Judy lived down there in that area in Lower Manhattan at the time, and she was over there looking at the beautiful memorial that they put up honoring these souls, and she realized they were able to see with the skeletal remains the age of the person and whether it was a male or female. But what was missing was names. And she figured, oh, well, we're artists. This is what we do. We put names and lives to people. So she created Unheard Voices. She commissioned 17 African-American playwrights, and they examined, so there were 419 burial plots they found, skeletal remains there. And she commissioned 17 African-American playwrights who examined, you know, one particular one, and they wrote a monologue. And of course, we know all of the hardships, and maybe we don't know all of them, but we know that slavery was hard on everyone. And so the writers wrote these reimagined lives, but they gave them, you know, whether it was a love story or there was humor and there was some physicality that the person dealt with. There was one of the pieces that had in the remains that they found, there was a bead in also. And so this story, there's like a story of a love story with the bead that goes along with that. But Unheard Voices is our foundation piece, and we toured in schools and museums and churches, and also with the schools, we've had education parts where we have had the children write monologues and have professional actors perform their pieces. So that's how we started and what we started with our founding piece.
Awesome. And, you know, to speak further to that, just that idea of providing that platform, you know, as I was mentioning before, of providing a platform for, you know, Black artists, and whether they are writers, whether they are actors, and also using it as a means of education, you know, for stories that are not common base among what we typically hear among our history. Can you speak also to that as well, in having that ability to not only provide a creative space for a lot of Black artists that otherwise might not have that space, but also be able to also do it in a way that you are informing people of something that is important. It's very important.
Right. Well, we feel like we educate, entertain, and enlighten with our pieces. We have Unheard Voices, but we also have other pieces. Like we started what we call our Reverberation Initiative in 2019, and we did, for the spring of 2019, had what we called ABCs, African Americans from Bondage Through Crow. And we did play readings of new works by African American playwrights from March through Juneteenth. dealing with slavery all the way to Juneteenth, emancipation, freedom. So we've done that in the past, and I'll tell you, with the start with this COVID, with the new year, in continuing on in our reverberation initiative, we have this year just kind of threw everyone, I think. We initially had planned for our Black Women in the Ballot to be a live theatrical production. We were looking at Harlem Stage and at Sheen Center. And, you know, March 4th, we performed one of the pieces in the parlor at Riverdale Country School. And I think within a couple of days, Broadway made their announcement that they were closing for 2 weeks. At that point, Judy and I said, okay, well, you know what? We'll take a break. We're kind of a little exhausted here because we've been going, because we consider ourselves small but mighty. And so at that point, we took a break, but then April, we were starting to think, okay, we've got to do something. We've been awarded grants from Lower Manhattan Cultural Council, LMCC, and also UMEZ Upper Manhattan Empowerment Zone. So we had funds to put on a show. Judy had been thinking about a radio drama. We talked about that. I'm not sure if it was 2018 or 2019, but we've been talking about it. So that came back up in the conversation. Maybe we should consider radio dramas. And that's what we did. So this year, being the centennial of the women's right to vote from 1920, we did our Black Women in the Ballot, which is 3 short plays that highlight the rebellions, large and small, that Black women mounted to progress voting rights. We had our first piece of it is called Don't Dream by Saviana Stanescu. The second piece was In the Parlor by Judy Tate. And the third piece is Pulling the Lever by Judy Tate. And we decided to do them on YouTube, presented on YouTube. We premiered it there. And we also partnered with 16 professional theater companies. And we offered this work for free to them to embed in their site. And they could also, at that same time, ask for donations and ask for contributions at that time, just like I think we all did. And so we were really, I think, ahead of the curve in that way. And we were able to pivot really quickly because it's Judy and I. We're very small. We don't have a whole bunch of people to consult with. We kind of decide, okay, yeah, that's good. Oh no, that's not good. So and we have so much fun doing this. I know we say American Slavery Project and people kind of think, oh boy, you know, it's going to be, you know, kind of hardness and hard times. But we tell our stories and we honor those who've come before us. And we feel like we feel very fortunate to be able to do it and happy that we're able to do it. And also in presenting what we did on YouTube with Black Women in the Ballot, we got really great responses from people. And we've had over 5,000 views with it. And I encourage and invite people to go to our YouTube page and they'll be able to see it. We had wonderful actors with the pieces. Our first piece, we had Lynette R. Freeman in Don't Dream. And then In the Parlor was Judy's piece. We had Gabrielle C. Archer, Celestine Ray, Montana Lambert Hoover. I was in it. And then for Pulling the Lever, we had Gabrielle C. Archer, myself, and we were able to have Felicia Rashad be a part of that as well. But you know Miss Felicia, we both worked with her, but you haven't said, but that's how we know each other.
Yes, indeed. For those of you watching, yes, me and Mez go way, way back. It's hard to believe. Probably half of my life, we go back. It's hard to believe I was 14. We go back. But what you're saying actually is a great segue to what I was going to ask next. But before I get into that, I want to hop into a comment that someone asked, because I feel like if you had a nickel for every time you heard this, it says, I did not know this. I'm sure you get that a lot. So like a lot of times with a lot of information that you provide in these performances, it's oftentimes information that people are not privy to. So I just felt that was a fitting comment for what we were talking about.
I know her, Sonia S. Barnes, you brought up. I know her. Yeah, well, I'll tell you what's really something is we don't know all of this information. We do research, and Judy has done amazing research in the work that she's done. And all writers and all actors, I think we kind of become pros on what we're working on at the time for the research that we put in the role that we're doing and the time period, if it's not a current time period. So, and so I'll say with Black Women in the Ballot, the 3 different stories that we had, the first one, Don't Dream, dealt with an immigrant who fantasized about voting. It was election day and she fantasized about voting. The second one, In the Parlor, which you had the opportunity to see when we brought it down to DC, deals with, and some people know this history, some don't, but most people don't, I would say, or know the fullness of it. In 1913, there was Women's March for Votes, and Alice Paul, who was a white woman and very much in charge of it, and people may be familiar with her, she was not keen on Black women being a part of it. Edna Brown, a young Howard College student, very much wanted her organization, which was Delta Sigma Theta sorority, to be a part of it. She was friends with Mary Church Terrell. I've just learned that her last name is Terrell, not Terrell. She was a formidable figure, historical figure at the time, and very much revered. She was helping Edna Brown to become a part of the march. She contacted her friend, Nellie Quander, who had written a letter to Alice Paul. This is actually true. We actually found the letter that Nellie Quander, who was the first president of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, she wrote a letter to Alice Paul, very much trying to get the women of Delta Sigma Theta to be a part of the march. And so we see them strategizing in this play. We never hear of this history. We bring that to life for you. And then the third piece, Pulling the Lever, we deal with 3 different generations of Black women and their experience with voting. So, you know, these are some of the things that we've done in the past. And we also on our YouTube channel have Fast Blood, which is a full-length play we actually did in 2018, and we had the archival footage of it, so we were able to put it up on our YouTube channel. And that deals with an enslaved couple, Effie and Ham, who live on a tobacco plantation, and they happen upon a hanging man, and we get to see their connection from there and how they are a part of each other's lives. So those are on our YouTube channel, and that's just some of the work that we've done so far to bring light to.
Gotcha. And as I said, that was a great segue into, you know, I feel the next topic, the next pivot that I would have in this chat is just that idea of you are at the hallmark, or I should say at the forefront of something that I have not touched on in this show industry-wise, and that is the idea of theater. Like, I've had plenty of folks from the film industry, plenty of folks from the TV industry, and talking about how social distancing has affected things, but I haven't really tackled that in the theater world. So you actually touched on it already, but just that idea of the trends that you've been seeing, with that medium, basically how it's shifted based on the limitations that are out there now. And I know, like, for you, as you said, you have the YouTube channel, and I've been seeing a lot of different organizations shifting in that way now. But how has that looked, for you, not just as a performer, but in all the other facets that you are involved within theater?
Well, for the most part with theater, I do think they are doing events that, I mean, we have to be online. Everything is online now. Theaters aren't open. You can't go into a theater. Even I've seen, just with articles in the New York Times where dancers are doing different events. So theatrically, I think it just kind of covers all the gamut of everyone is online now. And so we have to pivot and be able to move forward and kind of think outside of the box, because that's where we are right now and where we will be for a good while. I think I remember when this first happened, and I was hearing people say, "Oh, we'll be back in the summer or the fall." And I remember saying to Judy, "I don't think so." I said, "I think maybe the beginning of next year, maybe, but I don't even think that, because I remember Fauci came on and he said it will be 18 months." So I said it's going to be at least 18 months before we get to somewhere like it used to be. And I think right now for the theater world in 2022, I think maybe is when they'll be opening back up. And who knows, maybe, I don't know, we really don't know what's going to happen. But I know for me as an actor, I have had to learn how to do a lot of technology that I did not have to do before. So before it was just like, okay, you memorize your lines, you go into the audition and you do it. Now you got to do your lighting. You got to make sure they can hear you. You got to do it a certain way. They want you to slate. They want you, because different casting directors want you to do different things different ways. So you've got to follow the instructions they've given you with voiceover. I've had to build a little studio in a closet. Thank God my husband was very excited about it. So he said,
shout out
shout out to Ed. So he was very excited. He said, "Ooh, okay, I know I'm going to get this and we're going to get this." So we have paddings on the wall that we put up. We've set up
sound. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Hey, you know what that means though? It means you can add it to your resume. You can add that you're able to, you can able to make a makeshift studio for yourself, or have a basic handle with technology. So
right, because I have to put my.
If you've never done it, you can always add it. Say, "Hey, I can do this now." So
yeah, well, my agents know now, because when we were doing American Black Women in the Ballot, getting ready for that, I was in contact with my agents and they had reached out, and a very dear friend, Karen, she'd reached out to me too. And she said, "You need to be on this." And I said, "I can't right now. I've got too many things going on with American Slavery Project right now. As soon as we slow down and get this on board, then," and I reached out to my agents. I'm like, "Okay, I'm ready. I have it set up. I've got my mic. I have Audacity, which is the platform you use to record yourself. I have Source Connect, which is another thing that you have to get. They're not even, look, you can't even audition if you don't have Source Connect. They're like, no, you have to have it. So there's certain things you have to have. I've booked a national spot that I recorded in my closet. So I'm a little tech savvy, a little bit, except for the technology today when I couldn't get on.
We got it. We got it going. We're here. So with that being said, considering like what you have going with American Slavery Project, and the thing that's great about it is that, just as you were explaining, it's constantly evolving. It continuously provides a platform to tell newer or just not necessarily newer stories, but stories that people need to be informed about. So and having that type of project that provides that amount of creativity and that amount of evolution and change. Can you speak to that in terms of what's to come in terms of your upcoming slate of what's to come, not just with that, but even with other things that perhaps you haven't announced yet?
Yeah, so maybe I'll announce it now.
Go for it.
Share with your viewers this is the first time anybody's hearing about it, our upcoming slate for 2021, which is Yes, so take notes now. But you can always tune into our channels and everything. But we have lined up, or for the 2021 season, is a reverberation series. And so for Black History Month in February, we have Throw Pitchfork by Alexander Thomas, which is a fully staged video performance, which will lead to a panel discussion on the legacies of Jim Crow. Then for March, which is Women's History Month, we have a piece called You Can Take Out a Parent Plus Loan by Camille Thomas. And in that, we deal with a young woman who is a state university student who is dealing with trying to survive while being in college. Then we have for April, The Haunted Files, which is a duologue written by Judy Tate and Michael Slade. And in it, we explore the American eugenics movement. In it, we follow the real life story of a Black woman named Hazel and how she was sterilized because she was considered immoral. Then for May, we have Disunion, which is written by Judy Tate. And it's a young woman who fights with her CEO of her nonprofit over health care and her right to unionize. And lastly, for June, we have Second Sight, written by Judy Tate. It's a brother-sister who deal with their past, their reckoning with that in the rural Black community. For each of these, we will have panel discussions that follow. We will have scholars and or activists so that you can watch. I say watch, but they're radio dramas. The first piece actually will be a piece that you can watch and see. The others will be in the radio drama format where we will have soundscape and visuals like we did in Black Women in the Ballot. And but we will have discussions after that with professionals pertaining to each subject: Jim Crow, unionization, eugenics, and mental health. Yeah. So we're very excited about all of those and how we can go back and tell the stories that are not often told, give life to individuals and Black people who have been affected. We're all affected by everything, by slavery. And we feel like the ancestors are with us and helping us along with this. And then in the fall of 2021, we're looking to launch Unheard Voices in the radio drama realm. So we've got a full lineup for next year. And to see more details, you stay tuned to our AmericanSlaveryProject.org website. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. On Facebook, we're ASP 2012. On Twitter and Instagram, we are Am Slavery Proj, which is AM Slavery, SLAVERY, Proj, PROJ. So you can follow us on all of those and like and all that good stuff.
Awesome. Well, you are on it, Ms., because that's actually what I was going to ask first. I should say next was just where people can find, all of this information about the project. But we didn't touch on where can folks find you?
They can find me. I'm Messeret Stroman Wheeler. My full name is on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. There's no difference anywhere. So you'll find me, my whole name. And I have my website, MesseretStromanWheeler.com you can go to. So everything is on my website. You can go there. And actually, I was thinking about, we didn't touch on, with voiceovers, I have done
games, yeah.
Video games, which I know you're a big fan of the video game world.
Yes.
But
so there you guys have it. Messeret, thank you so much for squeezing out some time to talk about American Slavery Project. Thank you for those of you that are watching. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. You can find us on Facebook, which you're watching now live streamed. However, we typically do encore episodes on YouTube if you miss any of the live streams. We also can be found on Twitter at Moving Shake UNLTD, on Instagram, Movers Shakers Unlimited. And of course, you can find me, Brandon Choi ENT, on Twitter, and Brandon Choi _ENT on Instagram. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, and see you soon. Bye.
Thank you, Brandon.